Sorry, one more time. Do you mind being recorded?
No, I don't mind being recorded.
Awesome. I think this thing minds recording me though. My bad. My name's Steve.
Hi, Steve. My name's Vanessa.
Nice to meet you, Vanessa. Vanessa. Vanessa?
Vann?
NN.
ESA.
ESA.
I guess it's technically Vannesa.
That works. Okay, so here we go, the timer. So tell me about a belief, perhaps a belief you feel strongly about or would like to talk about.
Okay. I don't really have any beliefs at the moment. I believe that people look for reasons that they're alive, and sometimes we have the tendency to freak out when we don't have the answers. I feel like we might never have the answer, and I feel like people have a hard time wrapping their mind around that. So they create scenarios like for the afterlife or deities to give them a sense of purpose. But that's what I believe at the moment.
Interesting. So, the conversation doesn't necessarily have to be about anything supernatural. Like, it could be any kind of topic that you feel strongly about, maybe a cause, or it can sometimes even be political. More or less, let's see. So, sorry, I'm trying to think of how to frame the question. But yeah, so generally speaking, would you say there's any topic that you would want to explore in regards to a belief that you have? Not necessarily supernatural.
Maybe like deja vu?
Deja vu. Okay. So, deja vu. Let's see. So, and before delving into it, generally speaking, would you say you see it as a virtue when someone considers what they believe, or considers what they initially believe and puts it into question at least enough to listen to if someone else has new evidence or a new argument to consider outside perspectives?
So with deja vu, I feel like a lot of people think that it has, like they have like this, they really did live like that moment in like a past life or something. I think our brain has a tendency to try to make connections and associations with anything that we're living in the moment with like a previous memory.
Okay.
So I feel like with deja vu, people get set off, like they get some like a hint of nostalgia, whether it's like a shade, like a color or a smell, and they automatically like they feel like that slight familiarity. And then your brain actually tricks yourself into believing that you might have lived that, or that it creates a false memory that matches what you're currently living through. So that's something that I feel like people should do more research on.
So let's define this more. So what would you say describes what deja vu is as an effect?
I guess our brain trying to make sense of what it is that sent them into that state of mind. Like you're walking down the street.
It's when somebody recalls a memory.
Recalls a memory unconsciously, like not on purpose. Like I could be talking to you, and maybe someone's phone goes off, and it's like they're a ringtone, and I pay no mind to that because I'm so set on talking to you, and I'm like my mind's over here. But at that moment, I'm like, no, wait, deja vu. We've lived this before. I get this feeling that like this has happened already, and I think that it's just our brain just like picking up on everything else that's going on around us. Even if I'm looking at you or at this camera or the timer, our brain's like constantly trying to pick up on all the information possible and store it so for use later on. So at that moment, it's trying to make use of that information that we already have, and a lot of the times it creates false memories.
Okay, so you believe So you believe deja vu is the feeling that you're recalling a memory that is taking place, but like that you remember it having taken place before, right? So if we're to define it, that sort of make a good definition, right? And then the reason why you believe that happens is our brains are trying to make sense of the world around us, and let me see, what was the other part?
I guess the way that our brain makes sense of things, it's always trying to lead back to something that's familiar to us. Our brain hardly ever makes sense of anything that's new, unless we relate it to something else.
Information overload.
There you go.
Okay.
So it could be an effect of information overload. That's definitely a big thing. There's so many kids now with like anxiety and all these like emotional issues. I feel like we're just like channeling so much, like we're shoving informations down their throats at such an early age. It's overload.
So, hypothetically, in the case where deja vu was something that was more of was an actual like real effect, like the memory was of something that actually was real, maybe for supernatural cause or some matter of nature that we have yet to discover. What sort of evidence could you imagine seeing that would convince you that deja vu wasn't just the brain making sense of too much information?
That it was something supernatural?
Yeah.
They would have to really like predict what's about to happen right before it happens. And they'd have to do it more than once. Consistency is key.
So if someone was able to predict the occurrence of deja vu based on an explanation that would have been supernatural, an explanation, that might be evidence that could change your perspective on deja vu?
Yeah.
Very cool. Sorry. I'm usually supposed to lead with this question. On a scale of 0 to 100%, 0 being you have no confidence that deja vu is a realized recurrence of a real memory, and 100% being you're absolutely certain that deja vu is a recurrence of a real memory. Would you be able to place yourself somewhere on that scale between 0 and 100%?
I'd say like 7.
Confidence? 7% confident that deja vu, that deja vu is not a real occurrence?
Not a real, no, they can't see into the future.
Sorry. Sorry, 7% confident that deja vu is a real thing because you have a very low confidence and believe that it isn't.
That it is a real thing?
That is a real supernatural thing. I'm sorry, I might be...
Oh, okay, so I think, I would say that it's a supernatural thing on a scale of 1 to 10.
0 to 100%.
0 to 100%.
Right. 100% being deja vu is totally a supernatural effect, and 0% being deja vu is absolutely not, but in like absolute, like no way, the extreme 100 and 0 would be
I'd say 10.
nothing. You say 10%?
10%,
okay.
Yeah.
So 10% supernatural. And then so if we had a way to predict deja vu through a supernatural explanation, would that raise your confidence at all?
If you had a way to predict it?
Yeah. And we found that the predictions turned out to more often significantly be true.
Yeah, of course.
So that would raise you from 10% to something higher if that were the case.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay. So
right.
There's not really much else to go with this sort of a conversation. So
okay.
Thank you
so much.
time.
Very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.